And tonight we have an open forum where you can ask the chief any question you would like. And we have a special guest from Department of Corrections supervisor, and she will come and she will talk to you a little bit about what she does and how she interacts with the West Allis Police Department and one of our community partners. And then the chief will be up. He will go through a slideshow to go over crime stats within the city, and then we can open it up for questions.
Ready? Okay. All right. First of all, thank you to Lieutenant Johnson for inviting me today. Thank you. My name is Holly Ferry. I am a corrections field supervisor, and basically what my role is I manage probation and parole agents who all have a caseload of clients, and those clients are all placed on either probation or they're released from prison. Okay. So I'm just going to kind of go through an overview of what our department is, because we are a very large department and there's many entities of our department. How do I do this? Oh. All right, so we have a mission statement, and basically that statement is that our job is obviously to protect the public. We want to protect our staff, and we want to protect the people in our care. And the people in our care are the clients. Basically, how we are going to protect the public is we are going to provide opportunities for positive change and success. We are going to promote, inform, and educate others about our program and successes, which is another reason why I'm here. And we are also we also partner and collaborate with community service providers and other criminal justice entities. We also have a vision statement, and again, that is simply to protect the public. Every person, every family, and every community matters. All right, so we have several parts of our department, like I said before. There are 5 different ones: the Office of the Secretary, the Division of the Management Services, Division of Juvenile Corrections, Division of Community Corrections, which is where I am, and the Division of Adult Institutions. So the Office of the Secretary, our secretary is Kevin Carr. He worked for the Sheriff's Department for 30+ years, and he was appointed in 2019. And basically, he is an appointed official by the governor and the advice of the Senate. And he basically oversees everything: the Department of Corrections, or the Division of Community Corrections, Juvenile Corrections, and as well as the adult institutions. So he's the big boss. The Division of Management Services is pretty much all the brains behind everything. They are responsible for training, risk management, our cars, safety, budgeting, etc. All right, and then Division of Juvenile Corrections, basically they promote a juvenile justice system that balances protection of the community, youth accountability and competency, building for responsible and productive community living. Just a few statistics. As of last week, there are 113 youths on community supervision and 83 youths currently in prison. So there are 3 facilities for the juvenile clients. We have 2 juvenile facilities, and we also have 1 residential treatment program. That residential treatment program is part of their incarceration, but that's where they get thinking for change, criminal thinking, alcohol and drug treatment, life skills, etc. All right, and then the Division of Community Corrections, again, is where I work. Okay, we have 8 regions in Wisconsin. There are currently almost 1,200 probation and parole agents statewide. Region 3, which is Milwaukee, is definitely the largest region, not only because we have the largest population, but we also have the largest amount of clients on supervision. So in Milwaukee County, we have 5 different offices that we see clients out of. One of those offices at the State Office Building, which is downtown, same building as the DMV. We also have an office over on 36th in Wisconsin, another one over on Richards and Capitol on the northeast side, and then we have another office on Chase. So I think Chase and Holt. Yeah, Chase and Holt. So we have also a lot of probation agents that work out of the districts. So again, the agents that I supervise, they work out of the West Allis Police Department. We also have agents in South Milwaukee, Cudahy, all the districts for MPD. Let's see, no, we don't have anybody at West Milwaukee. Oh, Brown Deer. So we're pretty much all over the place. So currently, we have 260 positions for probation and parole agents. If anybody is looking for a new job, new career, we are always hiring. So we have 5 agents, as I mentioned, at the West Allis Police Department. Their offices are right inside of the vestibule. You walk into the main entrance, and they are to the right. There's always 2 agents there, not always the same agents, but they are always there. Currently, we have 12,847 adults on community supervision. It's a lot of people. We also have about 400 people of that 1,200 that report to the West Allis Police Department to see an agent. We also have about 103 registered sex offenders residing in the West Allis neighborhoods. All right, so the big question is what does a probation and parole agent do? Basically, what we are doing is we work for the judge. We ensure that clients on parole, or probation, parole, and extended supervision are following the court orders, conditions sent by the judge. We collaborate with the courts, the prosecutors, defense attorneys, victims, other community partners, and we hold clients accountable for decision making. We investigate the violations, we go to their houses, make sure that they are living where they're supposed to be living, make sure there's no violations in the home. We monitor compliance through GPS. A lot of our clients wear a bracelet, which tells us where they are at all times. And for our OWI convictions, they have a handheld device. It's called the Scram. It registers alcohol consumption. We also provide rehabilitative services through treatment. This is a huge part of our job, is to make referrals for clients, not only if they're court ordered or if they're through our assessment tool, if they have those needs for programming. And lastly, we enhance public safety by assisting clients to change their behaviors and repair harm that they have done. So we do a lot of harm reduction. We do a lot of outreach when it comes to the victims. We make sure that clients who owe restitution to victims are paying their money. All right, so then the Division of Adult Institution is all the prisons that are in Wisconsin. So right now, there is 21,681 adults in prison in Wisconsin. We have 37 adult institutions and centers throughout Wisconsin. 7 of them are max security. That would be like Columbia Correctional, Waupun Correctional, Green Bay Correctional, Dodge Correctional. We also have 10 medium security prisons and 20 minimum security prisons. The minimum security prisons are mostly our camps, and what I mean by that is they pretty much are serving time, but they're also working. So they're in the community, they're having a 9-to-5 job, just like normal people do, and they just come there and they sleep. So it's very low security, and these are the people that are usually about on their way out, that they've done enough of their time, that they've paid their restitution to their victims, and they've done well in the prison system. All right, and in the prison system, you know, when people think about prison, they're just thinking that people are just sitting around, you know, spending taxpayers' money, et cetera. But we do try to implement as many programs as we possibly can to get people ready to get back into society. And we offer different programming, such as basic education. A lot of people are going into prison with an 8th grade education. The goal is to get everybody an HSED or GED prior to release. They offer parenting, cognitive thinking, substance abuse, anger management, etc. Most of the convicted sex offenders have to go through a very intensive sex offender treatment program. Most of the time that is at Oshkosh Correctional Institution before they are released. And then right before they are released, that's when the releasing starts with the probation and parole agent. So basically the social worker will reach out and say, hey, we have John Smith getting released from prison. Where is he going to be living? So as the agent has to check out the residence, make sure that they are going to a secure residence, make sure their victims don't live anywhere near, etc. So just a couple statistics about prison. In September of this year, there was 634 brand new people that got admitted into prison. But on the flip side of that, there was 535 people that were actually released from prison. The oldest inmate right now is 92 years old, male, and then there's an 80-year-old female. The youngest is 18, and that's both male and female. And the average age in the institution is a 40-year-old male and a 39-year-old female. When it comes to race, 51% male, 72% female for white, and then for black, it's 42% male and 19% female. The other is 6% male and 1% female. All right, so these are the statistics that we usually don't like to talk about, but I mean, I feel like it's something that people need to know. So we measure recidivism, meaning people reoffending, in 3 different ways. There's rearrest, reconviction, and reincarceration. So 3 years after release from prison, 54.6% of those releases are going to get rearrested. And that may not be that they got convicted of a new crime. That means they just got arrested for something. Now, 26.6% is people getting reconvicted of anything. It could be somebody that is on probation or on parole supervision for a drug case, and then they get a new drug case after getting released from prison or getting some kind of conviction. And then reincarceration, meaning going back to jail or going back to the prison system, that's 36.2%. So if you do the math, 1 out of 3 people that are getting released from prison, unfortunately, go back to prison. So as I stated before, there are 5 agents that are posted at the West Allis Police Department to see their clients. We call this neighborhood supervision because we are coming into the neighborhood of the clients. Basically, why do we do this? It's basically to help the clients report to the office. I know that sounds ridiculous, but a lot of times that is most people's battle. They don't have transportation, they don't have the money to get on a bus. Some of them are just not from the Wisconsin area, West Allis. So getting them closer to their home increases their reporting. Also, the agent's accountability. You know, when we tell a client, hey, you're going to be reporting to a police department, I feel like they button up a little bit better rather than just going to the regular office because they know police are going to be there, they know police arrest, and they know that they could get in trouble. We also have what we call the ROPE program. ROPE stands for Repeat Offender Prevention Enforcement Program. Basically, what that is that's a partnership with the West Allis police officers and my agents, and they do home visits at nighttime. So they're non-traditional hours, usually between like 6 p.m. and 11 p.m. And we are hitting usually the homes of the high-risk clients or the clients that are not reporting or clients that we know are in violation status. We also have a partnership with the West Allis Fire Department. They have a mobile integrated, I'm trying to remember what it's called. The mobile integrated healthcare team, basically what they do is they reach out to clients who are a little resistant to programming. So if we have a client that comes to our office and they're positive for, let's say, cocaine, and we say, you should probably, seek yourself into some kind of programming, etc. If they're kind of on the fence about going to treatment, we will refer them to the West Allis Fire Department. The West Allis Fire Department will bring a harm reduction kit, mostly for the opiate users, and they will go to their residents, explain how they can help them, and also provide them with a harm reduction kit. Another nice thing about agents inside of West Allis PD is that the police are accessible to the clients as well as the agents. So if the agent needs something, we can just go to the counter, ask for an officer or sergeant or whoever, and we will get the assistance. Same thing with the police. A lot of time the police officers have questions about people on supervision. They can call myself or they can call one of the agents. They are always there for information. The agents are accessible to the police and community members. So if, as a member of the community, you ever have questions about what the Department of Corrections does, or maybe, if you know somebody that's on probation and they're doing something wrong or something of that matter, you can walk right into the West Allis Police Department, knock on the door, and talk to one of the agents that are there. The agent will then take the information and they will provide it to the police, or we will do a rope visit or a home visit to try to rectify the problem. A lot of times neighbors who know that somebody's not on the lease will contact us and say, hey, one of your clients is residing in this apartment building and he's a nuisance to the property. Well, we can contact the clients, and if there is factual information, we can actually make that client move out, okay? Or another accountability would be we have a lot of OWI guys, a lot of people that have no license because of a drunk driving. And if we see them drive to the office, we take their keys and they're not allowed to go home because they drove to the office illegally. And believe it or not, that happens all too often. So we also have strong working relationships with community partners and MAT providers. An MAT is medicated assistant treatment, which would be your Suboxone, your Vivitrol, just medication to help an opioid user. And then also I worked with Lieutenant Cato, who is a lieutenant at West Allis. Him and I got together and we reached out to the Voices of Recovery, and we got actually a Narcan box dispenser right in the vestibule of West Allis PD. So it is open to the public. So if you have any need or know anybody that needs Narcan, it is free. You just walk into the front door of the West Allis Police Department, you take a right, there is a plastic box on the wall, you open the door, you take Narcan, okay? So it's always filled, it's always available. So speaking of drugs, we have a lot of overdoses, unfortunately, in the West Allis area. Milwaukee itself definitely has the highest overdose death rate, with 30.1 deaths per 1,000 releases, okay? Whereas, say, Region 5, that would be your northwest Wisconsin, has the lowest with 5.2 deaths per 1,000 releases. So again, we have a lot of overdoses. Between January 4th and September 30th, 97 adults on community supervision overdosed in Milwaukee County. So those are 97 people that we supervise in our offices that had an overdose. Unfortunately, 25 of those people died. Whoops, sorry. Okay. All right, so what is the Department of Corrections doing to help the overdose crisis right now? As mentioned before, we have Narcan and fentanyl test strips available. We have baskets on our desks at the West Allis Police Department. Anybody can walk in there and take Narcan or fentanyl test strips. We have trained all of our staff in MAT options. Again, that's Suboxone, And the other, so there's MAT is an option for clients. It's nothing that we can make clients do, but if they want to try to help their opioid addiction, a lot of them will resort to an MAT option. We've expanded funding for MAT for clients. When guys get out of prison, they are actually released with a bag, and it has Narcan, it has fentanyl test strips, it has clean needles, it has other things that will prevent them not to overdose if they do go back into the community and use drugs, because what we find is some people are in prison, they're clean for 2, 3, 4 years, they come to the street, they feel like they can use the same amount of drugs as they did before they went to prison, and they have an overdose. We've also created the opioid advisory team. Basically, we get together, if there's complicated cases, we kind of brainstorm. I'm on that team. It's a team of supervisors and psychologists and other staff members through the whole entire Wisconsin. So we kind of throw ideas out when there is a complicated case. And then also, there's an overdose fatality review team. There is one right here in West Allis. We meet every 3 months, I believe, at the library, and we discuss at least 2 cases of somebody that had died in the city of West Allis and how we can prevent this from happening more. All right. We also had, this is something that just came out. I think the biggest problem that we have with our drug users is that a lot of them are just not ready for programming. And if they're not ready for programming, them going to programming is going to be a complete waste of time and money. So we actually created an app for their smartphone that kind of gives them like daily advice and just daily quotes, and kind of, they can use it on their own. Some people use it, some don't, but it's just kind of like that daily reminder in your phone that help is there. We also have the prescription drug monitoring program. So if we feel a client is abusing prescription medication, we can actually run their name into a system, and it'll show all the drugs that they have ever picked up from any pharmacy. So sometimes we'll find, say, we have a client who is using oxy pills, and we see that they're doctor shopping. And what I mean by that is they're at 5 different Walgreens with 5 different prescriptions for oxycodone from 5 different doctors. That's a red flag for us. So at that time, we intervene and say, hey, we know that you have a problem because that is not normal behavior. And then we also have several substance use programs in the institution, like I explained before. So again, that's just an overview on what the department is, because when you say Department of Corrections, again, there's so many different entities. A lot of people do not know that there are probation and parole agents stationed out at the West Allis Police Department. So if anybody ever has any questions about probation and parole, feel free to give me a call. That's my work cell phone number, otherwise my email address, and go from there. Does anybody have any questions for me? Yes, go ahead.
One of your earlier slides gave the current population of prison.
Mm-hmm.
What's the max you can fit in there?
That's a great question.
That's why I asked.
I don't know the answer to that. I do know that they're constantly talking about overcrowding, and I know that a lot of the prisons are trying to be creative when it comes to bed space. You know, back in the day, you could have a single cell. Single cells are very far in between these days. Usually they'll give a single cell to somebody that has a lot of medical issues, or somebody that's maybe in a wheelchair or something like that, or somebody that just doesn't get along with other people. So they're always asking us, even the county jails, even MSDF downtown, they're always dealing with overcrowding. So I don't know the answer to that question, but I can bet they're probably pushing the limits. Sure.
When you said these people are doing their doctor shopping, which I know what that is, right?
Yep.
Who's notifying you? You're calling Walgreens, or Walgreens is calling you?
Nobody lets us know. You would think that doctors, Right. You would think that there would be some kind of program in the system to kind of alert doctors and stuff like that. But if we have any suspicion that they are, I mean, like if you have a client who, and we can't count medication, we can't disperse medication, but like if an agent goes on a home visit and they see a bottle of Oxy, and then the next time they do a home visit and that bottle of Oxy is completely empty or it's a new prescription bottle, you know, you start thinking. So then we will run the agent or the client's name in that database, and then we'll get that information, and that's when we. Correct. Right.
And my last one, the 90-year-old and the 80-year-old that are in prison, what are they in for?
I would assume homicide, but again, I don't know that statistic either. Yeah, a lot of our older clients have been in for 20, 30 years. Most of those convictions include homicide or a sex offense. So I'm going to assume that, but that could be completely false information too. So, and if anybody wants any more like statistics or anything about the Department of Corrections or the prison system or anything of that nature, all you have to do is Google Department of Corrections and a whole slew of documents and databases come up. So, any other questions?
How overworked are the people dealing with these guys?
Extremely. I mean, just like every business, I mean, whether it's fast food or it's a professional job, I mean, we're struggling. You know, the institution, they sometimes are running at like sometimes 55 to 60% of staff, which is very bad because it's such a confined, dangerous setting. So they actually just passed a new compensation law that they're starting correctional officers out at $41 an hour just to get people in the front door. So they had to do something, and this is, I mean, obviously money makes people happy. So that's basically what the institution is doing right now, just to get bodies in. And I mean, it's a state job. I mean, back in the day, I mean, everyone's like, either work for the city, the county, or the state. Great benefits. Yeah, we have great benefits. But not a lot of people wants to deal with the population that we deal with. I mean, it takes a special person, just like it does to be a police officer, just like it does to be a nurse, any job. So it's, yeah, we're struggling. Yeah, most agents are probably covering about a caseload and a half right now, when usually they should be covering a caseload. But, you know, we offer overtime. We're maintaining. We are, I don't want to use the word putting out fires, but we obviously concentrate on the people that need to be concentrated more rather than the people that are on for, let's just say, petty crime, and all they have to do is pay their restitution and they're doing well otherwise. So we put the focus where we need it. Any other questions? No? All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Holly. And now we have Chief Mitchell.
Hello, everyone. Such a big room today. I'll have to make sure I scan left and right to see any questions that might be asked from all the people in attendance. So we'll talk a little bit about the crime from the last quarter, which would be July, August, and September. And I'll throw in a little bit about what we're looking at for the year. First, I'd like to say thank you to Holly at the Department of Corrections for coming and presenting tonight. We've got a great relationship with DOC. So anytime you've got government entities, there's going to be periods of conflict. We're not always going to see eye to eye. And the fact that we have DOC in our station, where we see them day in and day out, makes it so much easier to resolve the issues that come up from time to time. So we do get, at the end of the day, to a good spot with DOC because we've got a pre-existing relationship. They're not just a stranger on the other end of the phone that you're hoping to help resolve an issue with. One of the programs that she highlighted that we love in the police department is ROPE. the concept of police officers partnering with corrections, probation, parole agents, going into the community and doing home visits. We do that pretty much every month if we have the staffing and they have the staffing to do it. And generally, most of the people are in compliance. I know when I read the report, in an average month, we might arrest 1 to 2 people for every 10 or so home visits we do. But it's like anything else in life. Those 10 home visits, just the fact that a client on supervision thinks a home visit is possible, you'll likely have a greater percentage of them that comply with the rules. So it's a great program that we're happy to be a part of. Moving on, so I've already told you this is for July through September. We always compare last year, the same time period, to this year, the same time period. So again, it's just a 3-month snapshot in time. In 2023, in the homicide category, we've had 2 homicides in this quarter. We've only had 2 for the entire year. One of the 2 homicides is a police-related homicide that occurred on September 28th on 71st Street, right near downtown West Allis. So most citizens don't know that, but police shootings, like any other shooting, are technically tallied to the FBI as a homicide. As we know in most police shootings, and we don't have a decision in this one yet, 99% of all police shootings in this state are eventually ruled on by the district attorney in the county that the officers used objectively reasonable force and that their actions were those in defense of their own life or defense of another. If that happens, that homicide disappears from the crime reporting. It is cleared in a process called exceptionally cleared, which essentially means it's a self-defense, so it's not technically a homicide. And it's not just police that have the privilege of self-defense. Think of a store owner. If a store owner in our city would be the victim of an armed robbery, and during the commission of that armed robbery, if the suspect would shoot at the store owner and a store owner would return fire and kill the suspect, that would be counted as a homicide. And many months later, when the DA ruled that that was self-defense, that homicide stat would be backed out. So year to date, we are at 2 homicides in a city of 60,000 people, so we're doing very good in that category. We'd obviously love to see it at 0, and that would always be a goal of ours. Sexual assault is always such a very small number for us. It's at 3 this year as compared to 2 in last year in that quarter. Robbery, many of the stats that we'll talk about today, we're fortunate that they're very small crime categories for us. And we'll get a little deeper into these as we go on in the course of the presentation. Robberies, we actually had a 22% decline. We had 14 in the 3-month period this year as compared to 18 last year. But you will see the most concerning stat, and Steve, can they see this at home? Yes. It's displayed. Aggravated assault has gone up by over 100%. It was at 16 last year, and it's currently at 36 this year. We have looked at the aggravated assaults. We'll talk about that when we get to that slide in a little bit, but you're going to have a mix of family events and what I would call as non-family events. But even in the non-family events, most of our aggravated assaults as a city are typically 2 individuals that knew each other before the crime was committed. We do not get a lot of stranger-on-stranger crime in our city. Burglary has gone up by 25%. which we will keep an eye on. These numbers this year compared to what it would have been 5 years ago are a tremendous decline. The city, as well as other cities in the area, have continued to see a downward trend in burglaries, and I can speculate why it occurred. My personal belief is that someone who may have been inclined to burglarize your house has shifted to organized retail theft, where they're stealing from big box or mom and pop retailers scattered throughout the city. That's my personal opinion, but we don't truly know why that number keeps going down, with the exception of this quarter, of course. Motor vehicle theft is down by 29%, which again is not a good thing. It is only down because 2021 was a horrible year for us. We had a spike of well over 100% in motor vehicle thefts in just 1 year. So even though we now report it as a decline, it's still far too many motor vehicle thefts. We would love to get that back down to 2020 or 2019 or 2018 levels. Arson is 0 and 0, which is a good thing. Theft has declined by 16%, which is, again, a good thing. So as you can see, we have an overall decline of 13% when comparing the 3 months of this year, again, July, August, September, to July through September of 2022. Now we will look at each one individually. We'll look first at robberies. We did not depict homicides because there's only 2. The chart would have had a bunch of zeros in it. But in robberies, it's a big enough data set where, again, this year we have 14. Of that 14, 10 are businesses, are commercial, with 8 being defined as a business and 2 being defined as gas stations. As you can see, just by simple math, that means that we had 4 robberies of people. So think of people walking down the street, or people that set up some of our robberies are people that are trying to sell things. So if you're trying to sell an expensive pair of shoes and you agree to meet someone on 92nd in Oklahoma, we would suggest that you instead meet at the West Allis Police Department. We do have a small percentage of robberies where it's one party on Facebook Marketplace or any other social networking site trying to sell an item of value. A buyer pretends that they have interest in buying. You get there, they rob you, and they take the item from you. So we have a zone in the front of our police station. It's underneath the camera. I suspect if you tell someone that you'd like to conduct a business at the West Allis Police Department, you'll know if they are a legitimate customer or not. And shoes are one of the things that shockingly can lead to robberies. I learned just last week we have a police officer in patrol that is a shoe expert. So when we do get shoe robberies, he can explain everything to you about any type of shoe that is worth anything because he trades them in his personal time. So robberies, we'll keep on working at it. But again, this is the norm for us, where usually it's a business and it's not a person. I'll comment on robberies a little bit. We get in a calendar year, I would say 5 or less people, citizens, just walking down the street and someone else comes and robs them. We've actually had 3 in the last probably about 5 or 6 weeks. So that's a bit of a concern for us. But I would tell you, if you are someone that is inclined to rob someone else on the street, we'll do everything in this city in our power to solve that robbery. So 2 out of the 3 robberies that occurred of strangers, random strangers walking down the street that get robbed, have been solved by us and charged by the Milwaukee County District Attorney's Office. One was an elderly gentleman on about 73rd and Orchard. We traced the path of that victim and that suspect before the robbery. There is camera footage, essentially every neighborhood in this county. So we traced the route of the people. We identified excellent camera footage that ultimately led to the identity of the suspect. We had another stranger robbery up on the west end of the city near 85th and Greenfield. Elderly couple, I believe the male was 90 years of age, was pushed down to the ground. The gentleman was carrying his wife's purse, and the suspect pushed him to the ground, grabbed the purse, and took off. We did the same thing again. We thought, okay, where would the suspects likely have been before this event? And we scoured looking for video. Lo and behold, we found video of two suspects. It led to us identifying who the suspects are, and they have both been, well, at least one's been arrested and criminally charged by the DA's office with a felony, and we know who the other is, and we are actively seeking him. And our third robbery occurred up on Highway 100. Young, youthful victim walking down the street. A car sees him, stops. Several people get out of the car, push him to the ground, and take his shoes. So the whole thing was over shoes. That one has not been solved yet, but again, we will do everything in our power to hold people accountable when you commit crime in our city. So moving on to burglary. As you can see, we had 40 in this quarter. 19 of the 40 were garage burglaries. 7 were of businesses, leaving 14 of homes, which we don't want to see burglaries, but if you do have to see them, I think it's easier on a homeowner to accept someone entering their garage as compared to the sanctity of their home. So we will do everything, again, in our power to keep that number as low as we can. This is a map. All of the black circles depict where the burglaries occurred in this quarter. As you can see, they are scattered all throughout the city. So again, we do not get a lot of these, but they're on the west end, they're on the east end, they're in the middle. The west end burglaries, as you can see, typically are on Highway 100 or on Greenfield Avenue. So most of those were business burglaries. One of those business burglaries is, we believe, a crew from out of state that we are trying to track them down from out of state. So they are a very organized crew. Moving on, aggravated assault. This, again, I've told you earlier, dramatically increased, a 125% increase. 36, as you can see, of the 36, a full 25 are defined as non-family. Now, that does not mean that they don't know each other. It just means that they do not have a domestic relationship, or they are not related by birth. Again, most of our aggravated assaults occur between two people that knew each other before that event. We did have a few aggravated assaults in taverns during this period. We have a tavern on 88th and Greenfield that has had 2 separate shots fired incidents. So both of those are recorded as aggravated assault. So an aggravated assault can be anything from punching another human being leading to a loss of consciousness or stitches. So it's got to be a more severe battery, to the use of a firearm and shooting at someone or actually shooting someone. If you shoot someone and you don't kill them, it's going to be recorded as an aggravated assault. So fortunately, in the aggravated assault category, about half are strong arm, which means it's fist or bodily force. So we would like to see the firearm number, which is currently at 9 and was at 3 last year in this quarter. We would obviously like to see that number be lowered. Don't want to see aggravated assaults, period, but when we do see them, we do not want to see them with weapons. Oops. This is the map of where the aggravated assaults have occurred. So you can see a common theme that they're going to occur on major thoroughfares. And if they're in a neighborhood, those are typically going to be our family-related offenses. At least one of the aggravated assaults, which is depicted on 105th and Greenfield, was a road rage incident in broad daylight where two motorists were upset with one another, and one motorist produced a firearm and shot the other motorist. So we do get road rage from time to time, like any other urban congested area. We had one not reported in this quarter, but we've had one in October where, again, a motorist in the area of 76th and Greenfield shot at the occupant of another car. In that case, much like the one from this quarter, we had excellent citizen witnesses that provided a license plate number. Our partners in the Wauwatosa Police Department observed the vehicle shortly after the event and did a high-risk traffic stop and recovered the firearm that was used in the offense. So unfortunately, we do get road rage incidents. I think people are more inclined to engage in violent acts towards strangers today than they were perhaps 10 years ago. So keep that in mind when you want to argue with people about traffic. My personal belief is they want to cut me off, they can cut me off. Unless I'm at work, then we'll have a conversation about it. But when I'm off work, if someone cuts me off, they cut me off. That's the end of it. Motor vehicle theft. Again, it's a good reduction this year as compared to 2022, but it's nothing to write home about. We still have a lot of work to do in that area. Of the 63, we've recovered 35. So, and I've explained this in the past, but I'll explain it again. It's not necessarily that we recovered 35 of those 63. It's that we recovered 35 cars during this period. So there's always some type of float. If a car was stolen in June, like June 28th, but recovered on July 1st, it's going to be recorded as a recovery in this time period. So likewise, vehicles that are stolen in late September that are recovered in early October, they'll be listed as a recovery next quarter. So eventually, most of the cars that are stolen out of this city are recovered one way or another. This is a map of where they are occurring. Now, there is a trend on this map, even though they are occurring in every part of the city. As a general rule, if they occur on the east end of the city, they're going to be taken from a street or an alley, whereas if it's on the west end of the city, they're stolen from businesses or apartment complexes. If you think of it logically, the east end of the city is much more congested, so folks have to park outside, they park on the street, they park on a parking slab. If you're on the west end of the city and you have a driveway or an attached garage, or even an alley with an attached garage, It's just we don't get a lot of motor vehicle thefts from out of garages. So that is the map of motor vehicle thefts. And then the final crime category to talk about in the night is theft. As you can see, we're doing good. The biggest lion's share of thefts is always going to be the retail thefts, the shoplifting. We had 99 this period as compared to 106 in the same period last year. From building would be examples where it's not a burglary, where they haven't kicked in the door or broken in to steal something. They are in your home because you've invited them, and then when they leave, they take your firearm, or they take your wallet, or they take your OxyContin. All of those would be a theft from a building, because it's typically going to be someone that you have allowed into your home that then leaves with something that belongs to you. And we do not map the thefts because they would, with 300 data points or 253, the map would be, there's no value in looking at it. It'd be every neighborhood, every corner of the city. And now I will open it up to any questions that anyone may have, including online, Steve. Nothing online? Anything from here? Yes, sir?
A reported stolen car with no plates goes through a flock intersection.
Yep.
Can we get it?
So the question is, we have flock cameras as a city. If there's a reported stolen car without a plate, can we get it? And the answer is mostly no, but sometimes yes. The flock alerts are generated by the plate. So if there isn't a plate, you are not going to get an alert. However, flock takes a photograph of every vehicle passing by. So if we knew that a GMC Envoy, black in color, without plates, was stolen, we can do a manual search, and we'll find it on the manual search. So it won't give us an automatic alert, but we can find it in the system. Good question, though. Any other questions? Anybody want me to comment on the judiciary? Since Judge Murphy is here. He's shaking his head no. So I think that's it. All right. Thank you for attending tonight.